of the group Península. This is a platform that was set up in 2012. It's sort of unique in the Spanish historiographical, curatorial, or artistic environment. It's a quite unique platform. It's an informal platform for people that question something that is not being or is not being sustainably questioned in the Spanish or the Iberian position, that is to question the ich and nunc, the here and now of from where we speak. We historiographically and museographically, we've been always following a naturalized position in which the subject position is never made visible, it's never made evident. We call it Peninsula. Peninsula is it identifies a geographical phenomenon. Probably not to identify ourselves with the as an a priori Spanish platform. Actually, we have Portuguese members and we have Latin American members, and also because of the metaphor of the peninsula. That is, on the one hand, isolated, has its own specificity, at the same time, it's pendings, it's an appendix of something else. It can never claim to be an island, that is something that is always related to something else. And probably it's also had to do with the idea of the colony and the colonial process that is evident in this peninsular position, that is connected at the same time on the margins. So as I said, it was set up in 2012, researching coloniality and colonial processes in relation to the history and art of Spain and Portugal, something, as I said, very unique. The colonial, doing research on these colonial processes and the agency of them in current power relations. The group is made up of around 50 researchers, at the same time very heterogeneous, at the same time linked by informal bonds of affection, common interests, and political awareness. Well, probably one of the concepts we identify with this research, the notion of research, is a notion that we all identify with and that we share in different performative ways against instrumentalist, academicist, or aestheticist modes of production. We take research as a space of resistance and collective production, as a counterintuitive way of questioning disciplinary, colonial forms of knowledge, an excess, a flux that intrinsically overflows its specific sense of production. This claim of research probably is something that we can debate, because obviously it's a key concept that is being used and misused lately, but we claim it from the non-productive, non-instrumentalizing process of knowledge production that is at the same time that excess is an excess with regard to a specific site and also its own collections. The founding members of Península exemplified the unsettled and unsettling nature of the group. Two Spanish art historians, Olga Fernandez and myself, trained in the UK, in which we sort of were vaccinated against the hegemonic Anglo-Saxon critical theory. So we reacted against this indoctrination. There's one Chilean historian, that's on my side, and who is working in Spain, so he's actually displaced, and a Spanish artist and curator living in Brazil, Maria Inigo, that Cristina knows. So this is the kind of biographical geography of that somehow explains the nature of this platform. As a situated platform, we have developed a methodology that first of all tries to avoid the copy system of the Anglo-Saxon academia and derives most of its critical apparatus from Latin American theory of coloniality and decolonization, inverting thus the north-south direction of critical trends when questioning Spanish and Portuguese art and culture from that perspective. The platform is developing different lines of research that are intertwined, and some of the members belong to different more than one of these lines. I will just list them. The Colonial Archive, second, the historicization and exhibition histories, the third is the so-called cultural industries, and the fourth is radical sexualities. And this is from this position, and after a debate with a group that we identified temporalities as the term we wanted to address. But it was obvious from the beginning that we are not defining a term, but we are opening a question by using this term. So we never, one of the first ideas that came to us is that the term shouldn't be our limit, but would be only the trigger of our process of discussion. Actually, it triggered that process already. And there I will give the voice to Pancho.
Okay. So we have chosen the term temporalities as a possible way to develop our situated and upside-down ideas as a reaction against the hierarchical articulation of times and spaces. In this sense, we denounce two double fallacies with regard to time. The first of them is that there are two complementary, separate temporalities. That of the master, the modern time, and on the other hand, the subaltern temporality that is primitive, popular, indigenous, usually defined as the past, and read to be exploited or to be abolished on behaviour on the idea of progress and civilization. These temporalities are nothing but interested projection from colonial power, which have been very successful in reproduction, patronizing forms of representing the other. That's why we choose the 1992 emblem of Madrid, European capital of culture, and at the same time the Seville Universal Exhibition as a paradigm that works in this hegemonic way of representing two different temporalities, one that operates in the past and the other one that is progressive.
And modern Spain was defined in 1992 with the celebrations of the 400th anniversary of the discovery of America, playing with these two temporalities, in which the Spanish modern democracy was attaching itself to the temporality of the master, at the same time recognizing the temporalities of the others, the common. Obviously, this was expressed in terms of the spectacle culture. You see the exhibition in Seville with the end of the exhibition. There was this ridiculous curro that reproduced with his nose the multicultural element of the Spanish colonial heritage, a word colonial that never appeared in the celebrations. And actually, the Spanish notes that were the Spanish pesetas that were released in 1992, the three of them the one had the face of Columbus, the second the head of Cortes, and the third one the head of Pizarro.
Well, that will be one paradigm that we want to respond to. Yeah. The second one will be that there are multiple temporalities coexisting juxtaposed in global harmony, a discourse which hides and naturalizes the colonial, sometimes called post-colonial order in which time of the power, most often financial power, is ubiquitous but never made visible. What we meant, in fact, is the boom of the multicultural discourses that in the art system works in the Spanish context with the origin of the modern and contemporary art museums in 1889 with the birth of the Atlantic Center of Modern Art that was based in the Canarian Island. That is a sort of they find themselves as in a position that tried, well, we cannot read, but they tried to articulate the Canarian Island as a point of connection between Africa, Europe, and America as a central point, like trying to be central. This operation happened, this was in 1989, and then in 1995 in Extremadura, that is the place where all like the historical conquests that Jesus was talking about were born, and they displaced to the colonies. In this city, in Bajos, in Extremadura, it was called the Extremadurian Museum of, not the Museum of Contemporary Art from Extremadura and Iberoamerica. So it was a kind of resituating this in a panopticon building also, resituating Extremadura, like that in Spain is a very, very peripheral area as a center in relation to the colonies.
Actually, it's the place where Cortés was born. Extremadura is the origins of most of the conquistadores.
And finally, in this kind of discourse in 1995, at the same time that this museum was built at the Reina Sofia Museum, was the arrival of the Anglo-Saxon multicultural discourse through Dan Cameron and this exhibition that took Lévi-Strauss' concept of
Cook and Brown.
Yeah.
And so how art and culture and the art institution became a bond to avoid the conflict or the encounter relationship between the Spain and its former colonies. So there was a culturalization and amplification of
that made all this kind of like power relationship absolutely flat and unexistent. Sometimes the radical critique of those fallacies that we're trying to go against tend to fall again into a schematic linearism, as it happened in an exhibition as the Potosi Principle in 2010, where at the Reina Sofia Museum, where Marxist dialectic reproduces the northern imaginary of the subaltern South as a part of a primitive pre-capitalist idea. This is one of the. We are coming back to this exhibition in the Reina Sofia concept. So,
Francisco was the coordinator of that exhibition, so it's a very sort of self-reflective process. Yes,
Andreas Sigman and Inspiration show. We are aware to. We're showing another image of the Potosi Principle. We are aware too that the term temporality contains the ambivalence of endorsing the hierarchical structure by separating one hegemonic temporality from many subaltern and partial ones, always in the past, and at the same time designating a plurality of coexisting chronologies is a post-historical time. Our challenge is to find in the ambiguity of the concept the possibility of intervening in the hegemonic system to produce agency. In order to do that, we claim that there is a continuity between colonial past and colonial temporalities in the global context. We claim that the coloniality is a continuous but dynamic process producing many diverse forms of experience of time and time narratives connected to each other by many forms of power relationship. The temporalities of these colonial subjects require radically new ways to relate to the past and to historize. In this sense, temporalities is an instrumental to undo the power relationships that operate in both the historical temporality and the contemporary temporality of production of colonial class and gender struggles. This operation produced the possibility of fight against certain pathologies of memory as the end of the history and the déjà vu. By the same token, we challenge to the very idea of Western temporality by being open to a qualitative different notion of time. Fictional time, indigenous time, dream time, play and fiesta time, lazy time, the time of the migrant, the time of the frontier, the time, this is a frontier too, the time of the labor, the time of the enclosure, and the time of the revolt.
Well, I mean, some of these cases probably should be commented. These are work
by the artist, Peruvian artist Daniel Ortiz, with a Spanish artist called Jose Quiroga, that made this sort of, this is the center of internment of immigrants, that it is at the same time the building works as a place where you do all your bureaucratic processes to live in Madrid. So they made this sort of homage of this woman that died with HIV in this center, and they recover like a sort of historical and political act in relation to the Congo's dictatorship and the relationship with the city of Madrid. And well, it's a very complex piece, but she traveled with this banner the 12th of October through that is the day of the discovery, the so-called discovery.
So we are not proposing a recovery of subaltern histories, as postcolonial studies sometimes have claimed, but the radical openness to a variety of temporalities which are not anymore isolated, but aggregate in antagonist, dialogical, or promiscuous ways. Well, Peninsula rehearses different narrative modes that pollute each other, and that's the way we connect with the issues we deal with. We somehow react against the idea of disciplinary divisions, but at the same time we also react against the transdisciplinary notion that you can jump or you can move from one to another without any friction or any displacement. Trying to mix strata of past and present, and recognizing always the contingent and performative nature of the task, and also its transformative potential and its political agenda.